Hi everybody, my name is Sun Myung Moon and welcome to I Home Church. I know that lots of us have been alarmed at the most recent terrorist strikes that occurred simultaneously almost in Lyon, France, and Tunisia and Kuwait. And of course, ISIS has not claimed it as their own, but many people think that ISIS definitely had a hand in orchestrating these strikes. And it's leading a lot of people to really ask the question when we're thinking about the future of our world and really the future of our children's lives. How do we prevent extremism? And the simple answer to that is, well, we can prevent extremism or terrorism in creating a culture of heart and love. But learning how to love one another, learning how to love the other, many times perceived as a hostile enemy, is an extremely difficult thing to do. And so how do we love when loving is so hard? Pope Francis kind of shared with us recently that, his cardinals are not really living up to the standard of love that Catholicism is supposed to teach and espouse. And our true mother shared with brothers and sisters quite recently that our leaders need to be more loving. And true father, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, shared with our community on August 18th, 2000. He said, "Religious people have not been good examples in the practice of love and living for the sake of others, and for this reason should engage in self-reflection. It is time for religious people to repent for their preoccupation with individual salvation and narrow denominational interests. Such practices have prevented religious bodies from giving their utmost to the cause of world salvation. Our age, more than others, demand that we go beyond our faiths and interest of particular religions and put our love and ideals into practice for the sake of the world." Now, I think what Father was talking about back in 2010 is extremely important because religious communities really do have a responsibility to kind of guide people to be that inspired son and a daughter of God. But we only need to look at the internet and the kind of language and the dialogue that takes place amongst the brothers and sisters of different religions and different faiths. And there's a lot of hostility, a lot of ugliness, a lot of what I call verbal pollution out there. Jimmy Kimmel says that, quote, "Internet is one of the most dangerous places to be because the internet becomes kind of like a equal opportunity platform where people feel like they can express things to people they've never met and not really be accountable or responsible for what they say. And the kind of things that people tweet on and on Twitter and the kind of things that they write on Facebook are just extremely, extremely aggressive and hostile language that they would never say to the recipient of their hostility in person. And we realize that many of the dialogue that takes place amongst the faithful are not too kind to each other. Most recently, the Jerusalem Post cited Rabbi Ovadia Yosef basically stating that the Gentiles were created to serve the Jews. We have different Muslim women from two ends of the United Kingdom, coming from two different mosques, saying that yes, we were encouraged by our mothers and our fathers to interact with different types of people, but when we got to the mosque, we were told not to mingle with white pigs. And even when we look at our own community, we are pretty good in terms of, because of our father's teaching, of really trying our best to kind of encourage and honor different faiths. But when it comes to the way we deal with people that we perceive has gone against the laws of the community, we have definitely room for improvement. My husband and I, the last 3 years, we've had an incredible journey of sorts because of the certain decisions that we made. And it did not leave our community in the best of ways. And certainly we became a target of a great deal of aggression and hostility, and the kind of power bashing that takes place, or that continues to take place, is really not something that is wonderfully representative of the community. But I want to share some of the things that were sent or said to my husband and me, because it's high time that religious community take responsibility for itself and deal with certain elements that are not best representative of the community that we're talking about. And some of the most vicious things that my husband and I received came from the very community that we come from. This person wrote, I wish you the most excruciating, painful death. Another person wrote, you should be nailed to the coffin and buried alive in it. Another person said, we need to close the door on her so that she can never come back. Another person said, she should have aborted the devil's child. Another person said, if my sister had illegitimate sex, I will kill her myself. And now, mind you, these are extreme kind of terrorism that took place on the internet towards my husband and me, and they are not representative of our whole community. Most of the people are some of the best people that I have met, that my husband and I have met over the years. But every religious community do have their fanatical tendencies or extremist tendencies or even terrorist tendencies. And we need to be able to talk about it and really kind of self-reflect, as my father had said, so that we can really be the kind of a community that practices love and ideals in our lives, and not the community that just talks about it, but allows certain elements of that community to voice their opinions in the most horrific ways. But the thing that I think really kind of bothered me most recently is having this person come on my YouTube channel where I run the iHome Church, and this person wrote, Yoko and John, Injin and Ben, I see Yoko and John, I see Injin and Ben. I feel frothy emotion. I feel a tragic end. And to me, this was a little bit more than just somebody just venting. It showed a heart that was really twisted, in that you're wishing upon somebody a tragic end. And anybody who knows the Yoko and John story knows that John was murdered in front of his house. So you're talking about murder, you're talking about a brutal end. And for a member of our community to wish that to me and my husband, I have to ask myself, well, what is this person wishing for other people in the community, or other people that he is angry at? Or what if he is angry at his spouse? What would he say to her? Or if this person is angry at his children, what would he say? And these are the things that we must kind of really think about and reflect about, because sometimes when we voice our anger and we voice our frustrations, we're doing so because we want the other to change, or we want the other to obey what we are saying, or we want the other to listen to what we're saying. But when we vent, it rarely changes the recipient's opinion, or the way the recipient is going to receive what is being thrown their way. And so venting and being angry is actually counterproductive to what the person being angry is trying to convey, because it is not an effective form of communication in really kind of helping to teach or guide the other person, if that is the aggressor's intention, to be a better person in the end. And we realize that verbal pollution does not create change. But just as Father talked about, it is that honest self-reflection, or what I call honest reflection, that does. So verbal pollution does not create change, but honest reflection does. And it's something to keep in mind as we go on to progress into becoming a really loving and a wonderful community. And loving doesn't mean anything goes. You know, lots of people think when I encourage love and embrace, they think, well, anything goes. No, that's not what I'm saying. But regardless of the crisis or an obstacle or a particular issue we are dealing with, the way we respond to that crisis can be one out of love, or the other out of condemnation. One out of embrace and trying to inspire the person to be a better person, or one out of hate and out of just pure anger. And so each religious community needs to be responsible for guiding people to love. And so how can we go about doing that? Well, I think there are a couple simple steps that is helpful in achieving such a thing. Number one is to hold a mirror to our religious community. We have to honestly be able to look at the light as well as the shadows, meaning not just celebrate the triumphs and how wonderful we are, but also look honestly at the mistakes that we have made or the things that we can improve upon. And number two, we have to be willing to ask the hard questions, not to others, but to ourselves. How do we really rate as a community? Here we are, basically trying to say to the world, you know, we are a movement of true love, and what we live to aspire to be is to become that men and women that embody true love. Well, how are we doing in terms of being that embodiment of true love? Or how are we doing as a movement in really being that embodiment of true love? And number three, we have to ask ourselves, are we taking responsibility for the way we express our words and actions to the world? Do we take responsibility as unificationists for the things that we have said, for the things that we have done? And what are we going to do about it? And can we do better? And one thing that I've noticed in my life of faith is, you know, religious communities are wonderful because it gives us a sense of belonging, it gives us a sense of identity, and it gives us a set of rules and regulations that make us feel extremely safe. But when those rules or that framework is challenged, many times we don't react in the best of ways. And many people who are addicted to their religious life or to their set of rules cannot really truly free themselves to learn how to love, to learn how to express love in their words and in their actions. And I see this in our community, and I see this in other religious communities all the time. And for those of you who are enjoying the series, Orange is the New Black, there's a character in that series. Of course, this is a story about inmates. And there's an inmate who is mute in prison. And she discovers that she has kind of supernatural powers, and when people touch her, they are healed of all sorts of ailment. And so she kind of takes on this kind of like a guru or a messianic figure in prison. And a group starts forming around her because of the miracle that she's able to grace the other inmates with. And of course, when a group forms, then you always have one person, or the vocal one, who kind of takes charge of that organization and starts setting up rules and regulation for the group to follow. And you realize very, very quickly the dynamics of group psychology and how it affects group behavior. And so after a little while, this group becomes kind of a group in and of themselves. And when somebody asked this mute inmate, well, what is the whole point of your group? She wrote down on a piece of paper, kindness. And that's the reason why she allows this group to exist, why they meet, and that's what she hopes to accomplish, kindness in an inmate setting. But as the group goes along, the group realizes there is this Oriental girl, the only Oriental girl in their midst, and they start seeing her as the other, their enemy, as somebody to kind of point fingers at. By pointing a finger at the enemy, you can create incredible unity. So this is what starts happening in the group dynamic, and it comes to a point where the Oriental girl says to the mute guru and the group, you guys are supposed to be kindness, but you guys are anything but kindness. And the very intention of having the group formed and created and become part of something that they hope would bring about kindness became the very thing that was antithetical to their original intention. So instead of kindness, they built a group that bullied, harassed, and taunted this poor girl. And so when we see the group dynamic in motion, and this is just in a group setting, but a religious community is kind of a group of sorts. And so we have to be vigilant towards this extremist tendency that every group or organization or a community has, whether it is unificationist, whether it is Christian, whether it is Jewish, or whether it is Muslim. And so every now and then, it is good to ask the hard questions, questions such as, can we go beyond our denominational interests? How do we love the unlovable? Is our concept of heaven and hell more important than saving the world? How do we handle a crisis? Do we uplift and edify with our words and our actions? How do we respond to injustice in our community? Silence? Do we look the other way? Does the one condemned by religious communities have human rights or religious freedom? How are we really treating each other? My husband and I ask ourselves these questions every now and then because it's a wonderful kind of a checklist of how we are doing as people. And hostility and anger kind of has a way of growing on its own. Hatred kind of grows on its own because the world is not kind. And there are many things that makes life incredibly difficult. But learning how to love, to be that loving person, takes practice, takes persistence, and takes consistency. And it really takes vigilance on the life of the faithful to be a really kind of watchful and mindful of how we conduct our words and how we conduct our actions. Because our words and our actions define our end goal. And our end goal is to create that culture of heart and that culture of love. So that's why in our lives we need our true parents, because our true parents are truly men and women who have really endeavored and become the kind of victorious son and a daughter that have really overcome all the different resentments and hatreds and difficulty to really stand as that loving father and mother. They are indeed the heroes of true love. So how do we prevent extremism in our own community and in other communities? Well, the answer lies in our ability and our willingness to inspire the youth or the young people to be heroes of true love and not of death and destructions. In the minds of the terrorist, for those people who have studied the minds of a terrorist, they say that what these young people want, the reasons why they go off and join these terrorist camps to become an extremist or a terrorist in their own right, is because they desire to be a hero in their mind, in their narrative as they write it, and who believe sincerely that through their death they will vanquish the enemy, they will be rewarded numerous sexual awards, they will be rewarded numerous virgins up in heaven, and they are guaranteed individual salvation. But what the young people need to be inspired by is a new message of true love that says it is not the individual salvation that is going to change the world, but we have to think about world salvation, because world is one family under God. And instead of thinking about being a hero by vanquishing or exterminating our enemy and causing death and destruction, we have to understand that the purpose of our life is to love and to be loved. In essence, we have to learn how to love even the unlovables in our life, even the enemy. And better than just loving our enemy, love them as our own, as a member of our true family. That's why the beauty of the blessing or holy matrimony that brings men and women from different backgrounds, different hostile and enemy countries to really kind of pledge themselves and commit themselves in matrimony because they want to love the world, is a beautiful thing. And we realize that when Father says that, Father gives us couple pointers to help us do just that. It's kind of a wonderful checklist for me, and Father says, before we complain about world conflict, here we are talking about conflicts of all kind and how we as a unificationist community is going to solve it or want to solve it. Before we do that, we should reflect on ourselves and consider whether our minds and body are united into one, whether we are the starting point of peace, and whether God is at the center of our endeavors for peace. So if we cannot love the other in the context of our own community, how the heck are we going to love the other in the larger picture of our world? And if we cannot say honestly to ourselves that I am going to be the starting point for world peace, that peace begins with me, and live accordingly in our words and actions, how can we influence the world towards that end goal that we are looking for? And if we don't allow God to be at the center of our lives, how can we really fully appreciate the brothers and sisters of our world as a member of our family? So these are three things that is a wonderful checklist to keep in mind so that we can remain on track in our life of faith. Because we really have to be the kind of a person or be the hero that ushers in this culture of heart and love. And that is why in Buddhism they say that like a mirror, reflecting images according to the forms So, from Buddhist field of blessings, rewards are obtained according to one's heart. So what we manifest out into the larger picture is the very thing that are reflected when the mirror is held in front of our heart. So if our heart is coming from a true and an honest place, then it will receive numerous blessings and heavenly fortune. But if it is not, then we are in a way turning away from the very blessing that heaven waits to shower us with. So, in following the words of my father, we really have an incredible responsibility to love, and to put that love and ideal into practice for the sake of saving the world. And if we can do that, if we can truly love the unlovable, if we can truly embrace the world in the best of ways as a member of our true family, then beautiful things can start to take place. Numerous blessings that we've never even thought about will grace our road on our path towards our Heavenly Father and our Heavenly Mother. So brothers and sisters, I wish you a wonderful week. Take care. Bye-bye. If you have any questions and comments, please leave them below the video or go to injinmoon.com and use the contact form. And don't forget to subscribe to our email list. And for those of you who want to contribute to our work here at I Home Church, just click on the donate button. Thank you.